There are plenty of players with questions for 2026 that will be on this roster, but if you're counting out Matt McLain right now, then you're getting it wrong.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Steven Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love baseball. We love talking about the Reds. We love talking about baseball, and we love talking about all those things with you. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about Graham Ashcraft and where he fits into this bullpen, where he fits into this team. We're going to talk about him coming up here in just a little bit. We're also going to talk about the Key Brian Hayes of it all. Is he the guy? Is he the everyday third baseman for all 162? We're going to talk about him coming up here in just a minute. But where we are going to start is, can Matt McLain bounce back? Can he be more like the guy he was in his rookie year than he was in the 2025 season? We're going to break that down for you on today's show that's brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets back to use across the app. Just download the app today. All right, Jeff, we're going to start with Matt McLain. And listen, I have been a huge Matt McLain fan since way back when he was in the minor leagues. Had the opportunity to sit down and talk story with him and do an interview with him when he was in the minor leagues. He really impressed me. I've really been a big fan of his. He came to the majors. He performed in a way that blew everybody away and caught everybody by surprise. But then he got hurt and missed an entire year. And it was very slow coming back from that injury when he finally got started in the 2025 season. And it feels like a lot of people out there in Reds country are already willing to call him washed up, already to say that he's done. He can't be the guy. And I think that that's probably pulling the plug on him way, way too early in this process.
Yeah, we're doing the thing that we tend to do, the opposite of what we tend to do, right? Like, we want to jump on a guy's bandwagon way too quick and say, yes, he's going to be the greatest thing that ever lived and held a baseball bat. We're doing the opposite of that. Well, he had one bad year. Well, forget about him. Get anybody else in here. I'll play second base if you need it. And I feel like that is a very unfair thing to do with Matt McLain, because he's a guy that was coming back from a total labrum repair surgery. And all of the things that he had to go through in 2024 made sure that he wasn't going to play anything on the field. He wasn't going to be part of that. And so getting back into the swing of things in 2025, he was basically going to have to relearn the confidence in a swing, relearn, not relearn the basics of baseball, but relearn his trust for his skill. Because baseball is so skill-based. And when you don't practice an entire skill for more than 365 days, then you're talking about a big-time shift. So it's kind of hard for me to really know exactly who he was when you look at his first half of the season. He was really starting to get that confidence in his swing into July and August and things like that, where we really started to see an uptick in a couple of key peripheral stats, albeit they really weren't feeding in to his performance, because obviously he ended the year with just a 220 batting average and a 343 slugging percentage. But I think that it's key to note that as he got toward the end of the season, we saw a couple of key things. He started hitting greater than 46% fly balls. He kept the ball on the ground a lot less than he did the rest of the year. It was only 35%, and his hard hit rate was 44.4%. Steve, league average when it comes to hard hit rate is 37%. So we're talking about a guy that was hitting the ball much harder than the league average guy. He just wasn't seeing the results. I think we were starting to see him come around, and I have confidence that we will continue to see that next year.
Well, and it's shoulders, right? We see this all the time with players coming off of shoulder injuries. We shouldn't have been surprised. I was a little surprised at how bad he was to start, but we shouldn't have been surprised. Shoulders, right. This is how it goes. And look, if you want to take his 2025 season and just look directly at it without looking at anything else, he was a replacement level player. His wins above replacement says he was exactly replacement level, 0.0 WAR over the course of his season. OPS plus will tell you that he was about 26% below league average, looking at his overall body of work. His defense was great. You could count on him at second base. He can field the position. He's smooth with the glove. The offensive, the counting numbers, you talked about his slash line, 220, 300, 343. He was showing signs. He still was good with a bum shoulder for 15 home runs in 2025. That's one off what he did that first year. He had 16 home runs that first year. So I look at Matt and I can't fathom people are ready to give up on him. Now, I have advocated and will continue this entire offseason to advocate for Elly De La Cruz moving off of the shortstop position and playing in the outfield, because that moves Matt McLain to shortstop. And everybody's like, you can't keep his bat in the lineup. Yes, you can. It's not time to give up on him, but you get improved defense. You get much better defense at the shortstop position in 2026 than you had.
Anyway, yeah, for sure.
And then Matt McLain in this lineup is a foregone conclusion, whether it's at second base or at shortstop. I want him at shortstop because it makes other positions better. It makes the whole infield better. It frees up spots for Sal Stewart. The list goes on and on and on of playing this domino effect. But I just, it's a little frustrating to me that we're willing to just call a guy washed after one season back from a major injury that cost him an entire season. Bear in mind, last season, the 2025 season for Matt McLain ended up being his sophomore season, coming off of a major injury, having not played baseball for an entire year. There's a reason that we have the term sophomore slump. This happens to lots of players in baseball. So for people to be, this is the same things that I was saying, Jeff, when we were having the conversation about, we should send him down. There was nobody else. There was nobody better. There was no reason to swap him out. And that's really still true. There's nobody better. There's nobody to call up and swap him out with that is going to play better defense for you. And I think Matt McLain is going to hit. Is he going to hit for 507 slugging in 2026? Probably not. But I bet you he could slug 450, Jeff. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right. And I think that's the important thing to note as well. Like if you look at his career numbers now, the two seasons put together, which obviously he played less games in 2023 than he played in 2025. So 2025 has a little bit more weighted a little bit more weight to the numbers when it comes to his back of the baseball card. But if the back of the baseball card is the expectation for Matt McLain, that's 249, 323, 411. He could do that. I really don't think that is too much to ask for him. And I don't think it's too much to ask for him, like you mentioned, to jump up to 450 and have an OPS plus of 105, 110. I don't think that's that hard to see when you look at what he put together, because in 2025, his OPS plus was 74. In 2023, his OPS plus was 127. So if you put that somewhere in between, like right now, that just averages out to 96. I don't think you have to squint that hard to see him jump up to 105 or 110. And I think that's what we could see him do next year. But expectation-wise, like even just looking at that slash line of 249, 323, 411, 323 on base, 411 slugging, that's a nice baseline to begin with, even if he's just a second baseman, because you can expect that sort of numbers from your second baseman. I think that ultimately he presents himself as a solid second baseman with upside to be a really good dude. Now, as much as we say that, we kind of thought Matt McLain coming back would be a big factor into why the Reds would be a much better team than they were in 2024, I think we have to back off of that just a little bit. But I do think that he will be a reason to be bullish about the Reds next year.
Yeah, I keep looking at that number, the hard hit number, and the way that tracked at the end of the season, it just tells me that shoulder was finally getting right. I'm really excited to see how he looks when he gets in a batter's box out in Goodyear in March, and how he starts to look as we get closer to opening day. I really think he's going to look like the Matt McLain of 2023. And then will be time to get extra excited about Matt McLain. I am nowhere near ready to give up on Matt McLain.
And it's interesting too, right? Because the two games, and I get it, 2 games, it's not even a sample size to really write home about, but when the lights were the brightest out in LA in the wild card, he was hitting pretty well. So I wonder if we see more of that. next year. But I'll tell you this, Steve, there's a guy that the Reds had for 4 seasons in Matt McLain, 4 more years in Ke'Bryan Hayes, that I think has way more to do than just his glove. As much as I'm excited about him and I love the glove, I think that we have to discuss the negative value that is the bat and how that really affects our expectations of him moving forward at the hot corner for our Cincinnati Reds. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Plus, they've got the futures odds when it comes to the NBA Finals. Right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are favored to get yet another championship at 2-1 odds to win the NBA Finals right now. Denver Nuggets right behind them, and the Cleveland Cavaliers both with the same odds at 7-1. And then the New York Knicks at 11-1. I think we all know what happens with the New York Knicks, but hey, I'm not here to judge. Anyway, they've got plenty of futures odds over there as well. And if you're a new user, your first winning $5 wager will get you $300 in bonus bets. So what are you waiting for? Go have fun on FanDuel today. Download that FanDuel app right now. Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you're not an everydayer, make sure you hit that subscribe button, become an everydayer, right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, because we're free and available everywhere you get your podcast. All right, Steve, I was really excited whenever the Reds acquired Ke'Bryan Hayes at the trade deadline, because that officially meant that the hot corner was just going to be a vacuum defensively for the Cincinnati Reds. And I firmly expect he will be named as the Gold Glove. I know he won the Fielding Bible Award at third base, which is more of an analytically driven fielding award. But I still also believe that the Gold Glove is going to be his because nobody else was even close at that position. That being said, his bat is a negative. I mean, I'm not saying that he's an automatic out, but he's pretty much an automatic out when it comes to where you put him in the lineup. So for you to say we are 1,000% sure that he's going to be the Reds' third baseman for the next 4 years, that's tough. As much as I want to say that, but it feels like the bat is such a negative that it's really hard for me to sign up for it.
So here's the part that you're not going to want to hear. And here's the part that the fan base is really not going to want to hear. Ke'Bryan Hayes is your third baseman for the next 4 years, unless one of Sal Stewart or CES takes it away from him. You need one of those, pretty much, because and actually, really, you need both of those guys to get going, because one of them will probably need to play first base and the other one will need to play third. And that's how you get Ke'Bryan Hayes out of the lineup. Listen, there's a reason why the Reds were able to get him at a discount, basically. You look at his offensive performance, and only one time in his career does he have an OPS plus above 100. Now, if you go look at his stats, you'll see he got a cup of coffee in 2020. He got 24 games and he had a 200 OPS plus. That doesn't count. The COVID numbers aren't real, so I'm not counting that. In full season since 2021, one time 103 OPS plus in 2023, slash line of 271, 309, 453 with 15 home runs, and ultimately a Gold Glove. And this is the reason why he got paid. Since then, OPS pluses of 62, 65, 59, and 78. The 59 and 78 were split between 2025.
So the Gold Glove was not the reason he got paid. Ke'Bryan Hayes is actually a cautionary tale with the idea of signing a guy before his debut, because he was signed before he played. He had an 8-year deal for $70 million. He made $10 million in 2022, and he made $10 million. I'm sorry. No, it was a couple of years of playing. So anyway, I'm reading that completely wrong. Anyway, next that. He was signed in 2022 to $10 million for that year, $10 million for 2023. And then 2024 obviously split a little bit, $7 million to Pittsburgh and $2.5 million, or a little over $2.25 million that the Reds paid of that. Now, moving forward, 2026, 2027, he's going to make $7 million. 2028, 2029, he's going to make $8 million. So part of that is going to be, if he can be any kind of serviceable with the bat, he is going to be well worth this ownership group's money, and that is in their estimation.
So the question you got to ask yourself is, can he be the 2023 guy again? 3.9 in WAR in 124 games. That slash line was 271, 309, 453, 15 home runs, 61 RBIs, stole 10 bases. Can he be that guy again? I don't know. And it's the back, right? He's got that back injury that's nagging, that's chronic, that's always going to be there. And I suspect that the guy he was in 2024 and 2025 is more the guy that he's going to be. If he can be the 2023 version of himself again, then it pays to have him at the hot corner for the Reds. If he can't be that guy, if the best they're going to get out of him is a 70 range OPS plus, a WAR of 1 or less, they have to find a replacement for him. He can't be that guy for the next 4 years taking up a spot on this roster.
And I think that the Reds are going to, at least for this season, gamble that he can be playing most of his games at Great American Ballpark. Think about this, Steve. Last year, between the Reds and the Pirates, he had a total of 1.4 WAR. According to Fangraphs, that was good enough in their value calculation, because they take WAR and they turn it into a dollar value of $11.1 million, which means he was worth the money that was spent on him. So it means that if he's about 1.5 to 2 WAR, he's going to be worth the money that the Reds are spending on him, which is intriguing, because we want to look at every position in a vacuum and say, this is what we expect from our third baseman. But the way that the Reds build their roster is they look at the value of a guy as opposed to how much he costs. And if it matches up and if it's in the positives, then that guy's okay. So right now, when the Reds look at Ke'Bryan Hayes, they're like, this is who we want at third base. So unless he just falls off and, like you mentioned, gets Wally Pitt by somebody, I don't think that there's a chance that they end up trading him. Like, I would be surprised if we find out that they trade Ke'Bryan Hayes for something, whatever that something might be. If it's a relief pitcher, if it's whatever, and then just hand the position to Sal Stewart, because Ke'Bryan Hayes has shown that over the course of his career, he has been worth the money that he has been paid.
I think, though, Jeff, if a reasonable offer came in, the Reds should consider moving him. He's too much of a wild card for me to, like, if you get a decent offer, flip him.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to how the Reds value him and what we would like from a third baseman, I think that those things differ. And as much as I would like to see them explore options of improving that position, I think that ultimately what would happen is if they trade Ke'Bryan Hayes, they move Sal Stewart to third base. I don't think that they go get another third baseman. I think that this position is either Ke'Bryan Hayes or it's Sal Stewart. And if it's not Ke'Bryan Hayes, it's because they were able to move him for some upgrade somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I just wonder a little bit, based on what they gave up to Pittsburgh for him. And I'm not saying that I think that Pittsburgh did an exhaustive search on a trade. That would be giving their front office too much credit. But if they did, then that's the value for him. Then that's kind of tough for me to pull the trigger.
No, I agree. I wonder if he can be the guy again, Jeff. That as much as we've spent time talking about shoulders, backs, like, just once your back is not right, it really can just change everything for the rest of a career. And I worry that this chronic back injury is showing us who he is now. And I can't find a way to be okay with him being this version, this 70 OPS plus guy for 4 years in the Reds lineup. I can't find a way to be okay with that.
Yeah, I really would like, I think I could even live with him being like an 85 to 90 OPS plus guy, but that's really where he's got to be. Like, if he's below that, it's going to be like, oh boy. I mean, it's a black hole in the lineup, and that's really hard to accept because the Reds already have plenty of other question marks.
Right. His 2022 season, Jeff, he had an OPS plus of 88 in the 2022 season. That slash line looks like 244, 314, 345, 7 home runs. That's closer to palatable than than anything, but I think I would really need him to be even higher than that, up like in the 90 to 95 range to be able to be okay with him playing the next 4 years on the hot corner.
I would agree with that. I'd like to see more out of the bat because we know what we're getting with the glove, and the glove is elite.
Well, there's another guy, Jeff, that we had high expectations for in the 2025 season, and he didn't quite realize them, but he did show us flashes of how good he can be. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Graham Ashcraft of it all. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement on this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action than right now with Prize Picks. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes just 60 seconds or less to make your lineup, and you can play from anywhere Prize Picks operates, including Kentucky, just in case you were wondering. You jump in, you can pick more, you can pick less. So if you want to pick more, take Jamar Chase, for example, more yards, more catches, more touchdowns, absolutely. And just take all those same categories for the Bengals defense, allowing more. You can get in on the action over at Prize Picks. Just download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, you can catch us on every single podcasting app out there with the audio feeds. We're pretty much on all of them. So if you want to take us in the car or to the gym or for a walk down by the river, Jeff would love that. Just click subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. All right, Jeff, the Graham Ashcraft of it all. Look, I feel like we thought Graham Ashcraft could just come right out of the gate and be a nails Group A relief pitcher. All of the pieces of the recipe were there. He just didn't quite put them together that way. I think he was trending that direction. I think at times he showed us he could be that guy. I will also say, I feel like he got really unlucky a lot of times. Like the team forgot how to play baseball behind him on more than one occasion. If you look at his ERA compared to his FIP, in the 2025 season, Jeff, he had a 3.99 ERA, but his FIP, which were things he could control, his FIP number is 2.72. So more than a run different between his ERA and his FIP.
So our understanding of Graham Ashcraft is flawed because I'm pretty sure if you walked up to a random Reds fan and you asked him what he thought about Graham Ashcraft, they'd be like, that guy giving up too much this year. One of the statistics we like to use when it comes to relief pitchers is inherited runs scored and how good a pitcher is at limiting that, because those don't count against your ERA. They count against the ERA of the pitcher that left them on the base paths for you. Graham Ashcraft in 2025 saw 27 inherited runners. Only 5 of them scored. There was only one guy on the team that was better than him at limiting those, and that was Emilio Pagan, and Emilio Pagan only saw 6 inherited runners all year long. And then when you look at the fact of the peripherals, the hard hit rate, the exit velocity, the barrels, all that other stuff, he was elite. Not good, not great, elite at those. Average exit velocity, 99th percentile in Major League Baseball. Hard hit rate, 97th percentile in Major League Baseball. Chase rate, nobody was better than Graham Ashcraft. 38% chase rate. Nobody was better than him. It's the fact that he had a 342 batting average in balls in play against him. That is a ridiculously unlucky number. That is 50 points higher than league average. And those are the kind of numbers that will sink any good performance, because if you give up any kind of contact, then all of a sudden that guy's on base. And he had a 55% ground ball rate. He was the difference. We've talked a little bit about the fact that the Reds had kind of adopted this pitching philosophy that fly balls are okay. He kept the ball on the ground, but because he got no help from his defense behind him, he saw his numbers inflated more than they should be. Honestly, Graham Ashcraft put together the kind of year that when you look at him next season, if he can remain healthy and his durability can be there, he could push for the closer spot.
He could push for it. One thing he has to fix, though, is the free passes, Jeff. In 65 innings, he walked 25 guys. His walks per 9 was 3.4. He's got to be better than that out of the bullpen in 2026. If you want him and I want him to be an A group relief pitcher, we're talking at minimum an 8th inning guy. He could push to be the closer, but at minimum the 8th inning guy behind Tony Santillan. He's got to fix the walks. He's got to issue less free passes.
And the other side of that, the strikeout rate is actually not as high as his chase rate. Like his chase rate at 38%, his strikeout rate was only 22.5. So he needs to make sure he's got that out pitch, that pitch that he can get people to swing over top of or swing underneath of and get the strikeout when he needs to. Because it's clear there's a lot of times where he gets to 2 strikes. You can tell he's pitching for that strikeout. So maybe there's a little bit of, mistrust. Obviously, like we said, the defense did him no favors last year. Maybe he can find that a little bit, but also finding that bona fide out pitch to get that 3rd strike could be what he needs to be a bona fide closer, because we don't fully understand the value that he could provide to this team. Everyone's looking at the 3.99 ERA and thinking that they know who Graham Ashcraft is. When you go to the next level of statistics, you start to find out he is a pretty good relief pitcher. And at least according to Fangraphs calculations for wins above replacement, there was nobody better in the Reds bullpen. They give him 1.6 WAR. Tony Santillan's right below him at 1.1. Emilio Pagan right below him at 1.0.
So I have 2 questions for you related to Graham Ashcraft, Jeff. And I love it when I get to do these where we didn't talk about them before we recorded. So here we go. Question number 1. You look at this Reds bullpen, there's going to be 8 bullpen slots. That's just the way that it works. And if you're willing to say 4 of those will be the B group guys, and we think that Scott Barlow and Brent Suter will take up 2 of those 4, and you look at the other 4 slots, and we're going to call that the A group slots, and we know one of those slots is already Tony Santillan. Is Graham Ashcraft already the second of those group A slots? Are there only 2 slots available in the A group?
I think so, and I think there's a chance that you could even say that there's only one available if you believe that Connor Phillips is part of the A group. Now, you could probably say
we'll do a whole show. We'll do a whole segment on Connor Phillips because I want to be excited about Connor Phillips, and I can't quite get there. But I'll save that for.
It's a small sample size, to be sure. It's hard to say that the little bit that he pitched and just say, okay, we know who he is in 25 innings.
I'm not ready to give him that slot. He could play his way.
But to give him the B spot, I'm not ready
to
sure.
Give him a B spot for sure. Second question.
But that's for 3 B spots. So yeah.
Second question for Graham Ashcraft. How do you approach him and handle him in spring training in 2026? Do you stretch him out and have him work like a starter at the beginning of the year and then drop him into the bullpen, or do you treat him like a reliever right out of the gate? How do you manage that? Do you want him to be a multi-inning guy? That's what I'm asking you. Do you want Graham Ashcraft to be a multi-inning guy out of your bullpen, or is he a 1-inning dude, go out there, throw as hard as you can, maximum effort relief pitcher?
1-inning guy. Because I think that the mentality of being a starter, it's not as if, like, obviously stretching a guy out and making it so that he is used to pitching multiple innings sounds very palatable, but think about the routine of a starting pitcher as opposed to the routine of a relief pitcher. They're totally different. Mm-hmm. I want him to be in the routine. I want him to be comfortable knowing that he could pitch at a moment's notice from the first game of spring training all the way through the end of the year. So if that means that I sacrifice the ability to pitch multiple innings, I'm okay with that. I want him to be focused on 3 outs. And if he does have one of those games where it's just like 1, 2, 3, there's like 8 pitches, okay, come back out for another. Because I'll tell you this, there were multiple games where Tony Santillan went multiple innings, and he was not stretched out in spring training.
That's true.
I don't think that's necessarily that big of a deal.
No, and there's other multi-inning guys, right? Suter gives you multiple innings. You probably have Brandon Williamson in this bullpen as your long man. He's going to be able to give you multiple innings. So it's not a necessity. I just wonder from a preparation standpoint what you thought. And I think your argument, your reasoning there is very, very sound. I think that I'm excited to see what Graham Ashcraft brings. And really, it continues to be the question for several players on this Reds team that availability is going to be the difference maker for his 2026 season. If he's healthy and available all year long, I think he's an A group 8th inning, pushing Tony Santillan for the closer's role kind of pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds.
It could be huge. I mean, if he puts together the kind of year that he has and he actually sees the results that he should have, we could be talking about a bona fide A group dude, and I'd be excited to see it. And that is where we'll end today's podcast. Thank you so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure you're subscribed, become an everydayer if you're not already an everydayer. Shout out to our everydayers. You guys rock. Coming up tomorrow, we got our live show, Aloha Friday Live. Make sure you join us. We will be live at 3 p.m. Sorry, should have asked you before I started teasing it. 3 p.m. Eastern time, Aloha Friday Live, and we'll be taking comments and questions and letting you drive the ship there in the second half of the show as we talk Reds baseball with you. But now, make sure you go check out Locked On MLB, because Sully and Locked On MLB Game Night have you covered all through the rest of the World Series, as they all do, from all angles, whether it's from the local angle on Locked On MLB Game Night or Sully's funny angle with his trademark humor and his knowledge of baseball history. That's all in Locked On MLB. It's just like Locked On Reds, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. But as for Steve and myself, that we will be Locked On Reds every single day. Hey, speaking of Christmas cards, I think we just got ourselves on Graham Ashcraft's Christmas card list. So
I'll take it. I'll take it.